Hello, my name is Donna Hirt. If you're from Batesville, it's Donna Hirt. Admittedly, I am not a regular Sunday churchgoer like many of you. Don't tell my mother. But I humbly stand before you now to share with you the story of my wife. Her name was Carol Trexler, but what she did as a footnote in history needs to be shared. She was compassionate, outspoken, politically active, intelligent, funny, generous, loving, and darn courageous. She was an immigrant, trailblazer, social activist, and community supporter. I think I'd like to thank Carolyn for the opportunity to put a human face on politics and to challenge the sometimes brutal public to be more empathetic. I'd also like to think that I'm serving as the opening act for Mayor Hogsett next week. So bear with me as I allow you to see Carol's spirit. So bono. An immigrant, born in Puerto Rico to an Argentine mother and a Southside Chicago Lily pharmacist, Carol called various countries of South America home. Among them, Brazil, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Carol's 96-year-old mother, the Argentine, is with us today. Thank you for being here, Olympia Barbera. An entrepreneur. Although a trained psychologist, Carol proudly stated that she was employee number 8 in what became a global corporation that developed the timeshare industry known as RCI. Later, striking out on her own, she created Trexler Group, which became one of the leading translation media businesses in Indianapolis. Carol was ahead of the times when she sold training in regard to diversity issues among huge corporate forces. In fact, Carol's son Elliot and I completed the last 2 of an 8-segment English to Spanish film project that she was still working on when she died. That corporation has expressed incredible gratitude to us in regard to Carol even taking on this project when her health was failing so. I can't say I was very happy about it either. Her contact sent me an email later and stated, "We begged Carol to do this job, as her reputation preceded her." He stated that Carol was the most proficient translator in the media business, but certainly not the cheapest. However, we got more than we paid for, he said. World traveler. Carol always stated, "I was born on the wings of a Pan Am jet." That's probably true. As in the 1950s, her family flew home yearly to the Lilly headquarters, Eli Lilly and Company's headquarters in the 1950s, and then they would visit their Chicago family. Carol would say, "I need to smell jet fuel regularly, Donna." And off we'd go. Thus, we would take trips to Mexico, South America, South Africa, Europe many times. Traveling extensively was simply a part of her basic human needs pyramid. Community activist. Giving back to one's community was a lesson that Carol learned as her parents were good stewards and participants as expats in South America in the 50s. This was reinforced when they sent her back to the States to attend school at what was then Marian College. Her involvement included serving as a deacon at St. Francis Episcopal Church in Zionsville, president of a large Indianapolis Latino organization known as La Plaza, and Carol, by birth, was not Latino. International Board of Marian University, board member for many years at the small community theater downtown, known as the Phoenix, board member of Girls Inc., and she was appointed by past Governor Mitch Daniels to the prestigious Indiana Arts Council. Many of these organizations suffered a true loss in November of 2009 when Carol Trexler was diagnosed with a very rare, incurable form of lung cancer. Her lack of strength and stamina over the next 5 years eventually forced her resignations. Social activist. It's the summer of 1966, and Martin Luther King is speaking at a small park in Chicago. Carol and her family have made their annual trek up from Venezuela to spend time with her father's Italian Chicago family. Wanting to attend this rally at the age of 16 was not permitted by her mother. Of course, Carol, while on a pretend errand to the local grocery store, figured out the bus schedule and went to support the Chicago Freedom Movement, which fought against deplorable conditions that blacks were forced to live in because of housing segregation. Carol's political attitudes permeated her life. On a sub-zero degree January day in 2014, after receiving a third round of chemo at IU Health Hospital, she exposed her bald head and testified before a packed House committee hearing on whether to ban same-sex marriage in the Indiana Constitution. Although her body was terribly weak, her voice was strong, sincere, and insistent. She spoke of what the word marriage had meant to her and how medical personnel oftentimes did not know how to treat our marriage-like relationship. At that time, I was not her wife. I was her legal medical caregiver. Although we carried the necessary paperwork on our many trips to the hospital, I was still denied the right to her documents. Throughout this process and continuing today, her son, her daughter Christina, her mother, brothers, sister-in-laws, nieces, and nephews have treated me with the respect and inclusion of a wife. Although Carol and I were together as loving partners for over 15 years, we were unable to legally marry until May 10th, 2014, when we went to Washington, D.C. With Carol passing away on December 6th of that same year, we rejoiced in being able to celebrate only 7 years of legal marriage. To date, Social Security cannot fully recognize this marriage as a legal marriage, for receiving spousal benefits requires a 9-month marriage. On a personal level, to say Carol left me a better person than she found me is oh so true. To say I miss her daily is an understatement. But more importantly, I think Carol's philosophy would demand that she left this world a little bit better because of her stubborn, argumentative presence. Carol's mantra in life, and thus her license plate, read Carpe Diem. She believed that in order to live life to the fullest, one must seize the day. People like Carol Trexler brought argumentation into this world and thus wisdom and growth to our lives. Stories tend to change one's feelings. Real faces tend to move us. Here's to hoping her face and her story enlightened you and helps you to see the humanity and dignity in all of us. Carpe Diem.